Hi, my name is Carly Rosanna and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, it's another sort of how my creative process works. I'm going to be trying to recreate a dress I made a couple of years ago with some changes and some other bits of inspiration, which I will talk to you all throughout. So basically, I'll pop some pictures up over here. Probably about a year into my sewing journey, I made this dress. It was very much of the times, like the cottagecore vibes that were quite in at the time, and I love anyway. I don't care if they're in or out, I will still be wearing cottagecore style dresses. So I made this dress, I wore it a couple of times. There's definitely a couple of fit issues with it. I felt like the bust, I didn't feel supported enough in the bust, and I felt like needed a bit more room in there. Didn't feel too comfortable when I was wearing it. I felt like I was always worrying and hiking it up and things like that. Also, the fabric I bought for it, really lovely fabric. I got it from Mood Fabrics in New York. I bought this fabric potentially before I'd even started sewing, or just at the start of my journey. I got my sewing machine and then I went to New York and I wanted to buy fabric. I had no idea about fabric. I still don't really know what type of fabric it is. It's got a weave to it. Sorry, my window's open because I'm quite warm today. I'm trying to get the breeze, so it might hear a little bit of noise from outside, but normally it's quite quiet. Yeah, it's got a weave to it, which means that parts of it are fraying and things, but I'll show you all in detail all of the sort of bits and bobs and issues I have with it. So this dress, I want to recreate it. However, I have another little bit of inspiration, which is this House of CB dress. I really like the bust and the ruffle on it, so I really want to incorporate that into it as well, and then yeah, just make the dress a bit better. Now I have more knowledge of different things and a bit sturdier. So let me grab the dress. I'll show you a couple of bits that I'm gonna have to sort of rethink and make sure that I don't make the same mistakes this time. So this dress has been in my mending box for quite some time, so it's quite creased. Yeah, here is said dress, and these bits at the front do tie up. One of the first mistakes I made is I didn't sew that in with the lining, so that's not the neatest closure. And when I say mistakes I made, I was very early on in my sewing journey. I was just learning. Like, I'm not saying that it was bad or anything, it just was that I didn't have enough knowledge to know how to do things better, so it's fine. But yeah, this strap is coming undone, and again, I think that's partly to do with my lack of knowledge and partly to do with the weave of the fabric. I think I trimmed a lot of the seams, if I remember rightly, so then when I trimmed the seams, I also trimmed the strap, and then that caused there to be sort of not enough of a good weave in there to keep the fabric in the stitches, if that makes any sense at all. Maybe it doesn't. I should have said before that this dress was made from a Jess Dang tutorial. Jess Dang, if you don't know, she is a YouTuber, and she was really handy at the beginning of my sewing journey because she would tell you how to create your own patterns from your body measurements. So she would say, if this measurement was this line needs to be a quarter of your bust measurement, or something like that. So when I was starting out and I didn't want to spend loads of money on patterns, and also like help me understand some of the dimensions that go into dressmaking, and then she talks you through obviously the whole process of then creating the garment. So all of the sewing techniques is where I started to learn. So that's where this pattern was from. It has a like corset back detail. So once again, because of like the twill and the trimming, some of them have come undone, and some of them are, yeah, they're not very secure in there. The dress is lined fully and has an invisible zip, so I'm pretty impressed with how I did all that. With the new one I make, I don't know if I should really fully line it. I don't know if I have enough fabric to line the skirt, so we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but at least the bodice will definitely be lined. What else have we got going on here? I think it does fit me still, but it's going to be a little bit more on the snug side because I have put on a bit of weight since then. I think that's mainly sort of the issues I've had, oh, and the bust cups and the bust shaping is just not secure enough for me, so that I definitely have to rework that bust portion to feel comfortable wearing the dress. And I did the straps definitely too long, because there's like 1.5 inches, twice, so like 3 inches or something of strap that I had to sew there. I think I did that afterwards again to like hoik the top up to make me feel more secure. I definitely need to have a look at the strap length when I remake it. So that is sort of where I'm at with that and what I sort of want to go with. I really feel like I'm not making any sense today, but it is what it is. So behind me, this is the amount of lining fabric I've got. It is just white, like polycotton or soft cotton, so I can get more if I need to. This is the fabric that I'm going to use to make it again. I'm not sure the composition of this, but it gives linen vibes. Yeah, it's definitely got sort of a weave to it, and it does have, I don't know if you can see it in this light, but it does have a bit of a shimmer to it as well. But yeah, this is what I'm going to use to recreate the dress. I thought that I still had the pattern pieces for this, and I've just looked through all my pattern pieces and I can't find it, so I do think I'm going to have to start from scratch with the tutorial to recreate the pattern. So the way I'm going to do that is I am going to go follow the tutorial, see what that says. I will probably do like a speed through of it for this, because she has a tutorial. I don't need to be redoing that for you guys. You could go and watch that, which will be linked in the description box below. And once I've got all the pieces, I'm then going to compare them with other pieces from other patterns that I have that work for me and give me more of the vibe that I want, and do a bit of Frankensteining to make that work, if that makes any sense. Oh, sorry. A fly came in. So what I will do now is I'm going to get the video up on my iPad and I'm going to start making the pattern pieces, and I'll show you in a quick time what I'm doing there. So I actually decided to omit a lot of the footage of me creating this pattern piece. I felt that it was a lot of video that was not necessarily, and you couldn't see a lot of the lines that I had drawn due to the brightness of the camera. So here I am, as you can see, I'm creating the pieces and then I am checking them against the original dress that I made. I think mostly to see the length between the bust and the waist, and I did decide to add a couple more centimeters onto the length, which is what I'm doing there. And then I am sticking the pieces onto my final paper, and now I'm adding the 1 centimeter seam allowance to all of the edges to make sure that it does have seam allowance on it, and creating the final piece. And then in a moment I take off the practice piece and add all of the bits of information onto the pattern piece that I need. Okay, so where we've got to now, you're going to take this piece, make it a bit wider so that you can have the gathering. But I'm not going to do that because I don't want to use this piece. So, sorry, the last thing, let's get that away. I have the Anthea dress pattern here, which is a free pattern from the Nude Fabrics, and this has the exact bust shape that I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bits I've made so far, so this centre bodice piece, I'm just going to alter it slightly so that it will fit and work with what I need. So this is the centre front of this piece, and then that attaches onto there, so I think with this goes into there. And this side front piece is the one I'm going to have to alter a bit. So going to be quite a bit of alteration. So let's see if I just copy this onto here. I don't know if I want this back piece piece to be that high because it's quite high on the pattern. I know that. How can I bring that down? So I'm going to do that, and then I am just going to take that, just take this out to that. Hopefully that will look up for me. We'll see. I'm not too bothered, not sure to go there. And that will attach like that. And then with the gathering, sizing wise, it should be alright. I'm going to do the back pieces that she tells me to do. Then I'm going to look at the other pieces that come with the Anthea dress, see the difference between them, see what I want to do once I've done the pieces. So let's go back to that. So I just realised that I forgot to film, well, I didn't forget to, it didn't film, I thought I did, me doing the measurements for the back pieces, but I've done that. It was relatively simple. I feel like I'm finding this harder to do now. I'm so used to using actual patterns than I did when I had no idea what I was doing. But anyway, so this actually has worked out to be the perfect height without adding the seam allowance. So all I need to do is add the seam allowance onto both these edges. I won't add it onto the top and the bottom. That works out fine. And then the same with this piece, obviously it's the right height to match that. So I will just add the seam allowance on either side. Okay, so the one other alteration that I am going to make is with this piece. This is the bust panel from the original Anthea pattern. And I'm just going to, anyway, I'm going to cut down the middle here and split it probably like 4 centimetres. So I have a 2 centimetre ruffle in between. This is where the casing's going to be. Yeah, so I'm going to split it and add an extra bit in for the ruffle. So obviously I said that I've got all the pattern pieces. I've got all the bodice pattern pieces. I still need to do the strap pieces, which she hasn't said what you need to do for them so far. But I'm going to sort of use the Anthea dress piece as a guideline of length, because obviously before they were really long, and I know that this length is good on me from the dress I made previously. And also the skirt pieces, which are basically big rectangle. One of them has a V cut out the front, so again I'm going to do that straight onto the fabric. Once I've done the bodice pieces, I'll cut all the bodice pieces out, and then I'll get to the skirt when I get to the skirt. And just need some ties to go across the bust piece, and then I think that is everything. So what I'm going to do now is I've cut all the pieces out. I'm going to cut all the bodice pieces out of my main fabric and my lining fabric, and then I will need to sort of use the tutorial and sort of use the mood fabric tutorial to do the bodice part of it. Actually, I'll mash up of both of them at some point somehow. So that's where we are. We're going to get cutting out. I need to iron the fabric first. Ordinarily, this is where you would do a toile. However, I don't want to, so I'm not going to. I have compared the pattern pieces that I've made here with the ones for the Anthea dress, and the ones I've got slightly bigger, which is fine because we've got the bit of the corset back and cinch things in. Just as long as I know it's not going to be too small, it should be fine. All the pieces should go together well. If they don't, we'll unpick and we'll come back to that, but I have faith. I never really make toiles. I made a toile for a couple of special occasion dresses. Other than that, I don't really make a toile. I just go with it and hope for the best. So that's what we're going to do today. It didn't plan out quite as I'd hoped last time, but I still had a wearable dress. So I think I have enough knowledge to be able to make it work this time. we up to now? I just decided, as you'll see from the clip, to cut the skirt pieces first, just so that I could see what other fabric I had, because I knew that the width of the fabric was going to be too wide for the skirt pieces, so I had the little edge bits to help cut the bodice. I do try and use the least amount of fabric I can, waste the least amount of fabric I can. And then I've cut out pretty much all the pieces now. The only pieces I haven't cut out are the straps and the loops. She hasn't told me the measurements for that yet, so when we get to that I will do that then. So now I just need to sew the front bodice pieces together. I will do obviously the center bodice piece and then the two sides, and I think she goes on to then talk about how you attach the bust pieces, but it's going to be a bit different because the way that she does it has them lined, and the way that the Anthea works is that you obviously cut it sort of double and then fold it back on itself so it's lined with its own fabric, and that will also help me be able to create the ruffle as well. So I am going to sew the front pieces together, and then I will have a look back at the Anthea construction and see when the lining goes into that, and then figure out which way I'm going to do it. Once again, I've changed my mind. So as you would have seen there, I did the front bodice pieces, sewed the seams together and top stitch, and then I also did the same with the lining. I just didn't top stitch. I'm going to do the same with the back bodice pieces. Then I know in the video she attaches the skirt onto the front skirt on the front and the skirt on the back, and then sews down the side seams. Not sure if I want to do that or not. I've never done it that way. I feel like it's harder to match the seams that way, but I might try it. I will do the bust piece first though, however. I'm just deciding not to follow the instructions and just do whatever I feel like doing, however I feel like doing it. Which hopefully, I've been sewing for just over 4 years now. So hopefully I have enough knowledge to just figure it out. Normally I am like a stickler for the rules. I like the instructions, I like following it, but I feel like with this one there's certain things that I did as well last time that haven't turned out the way that I want them to, and things like that. So yeah, just going with my instinct. So next I am going to sew the back bodice pieces together, then I'm going to work on the bust. I did say that already. So with the bust piece, the way that I'm going to tackle it is I'm going to fold it in half. I've drawn the 2 lines on there for the channel, so I just need to sew down them to get the channel. No, I don't. First thing I need to do is put some buttonholes in there before I sew the channels up. Sew the channels up, then make a drawstring, put that in. Then I think from there I'll see where I am and I'll get back to you, because I think I've only got a couple of minutes today and then I will have to get back on it tomorrow. So today I'm just going to do the back bodice pieces, leave it there. I'll start off with the bust tomorrow and then see how I feel. I might have had a brainwave overnight and might have changed the way I'm going to do things. So I was just pressing the back pieces and realised I'd done something wrong, because I know I need to sandwich in the loops in with the back pieces and I have not done that. So I will unpick it and I will come back to all of that tomorrow. Maybe I'll just focus on the front first and then come back to the back after that. Hello everyone, it is a new day. I've got a bit of craziness going on with my hair today, but we're gonna go with that. So I have done a little bit of sewing today. I have decided, after sleeping it off for a couple of days, that I am gonna go ahead and do the bodice completely first, then I will attach the lining, and then I'll attach the skirt afterwards. It just wasn't sitting right with me doing the front bodice and then the skirt and the back bodice and the skirt and then attaching them together, because I'm not lining the skirt at this moment in time. So that's what we're going to do. So I'll show you what I have done a little bit of today. So I've just been working on this bust piece. So I folded in the ruffle here because I realised the ruffle is not going to be attached into the bodice, so it needed to have a nice clean edge here. So I folded that in and then cut into the stitching so that we will attach the stitching line around here. I sewed in the channels and put buttonholes in, made the drawstring, attached that in as well so that we've got the drawstring at the front, and then I did my 2 rows of basting stitches down the bottom of the bust there so that I can gather it into the bust piece of the bodice. So that is what I'm going to do next. I'm going to gather that into the bust piece of the bodice so that the front bodice in the main fabric is completely done. Bodice piece is done. Like this, I'm going to press the seam allowance here down, and then I will eventually just top stitch under this seam, and that will help me keep the lining in place because the top bit is already lined. So we're going to want to line this bottom bit of the front bodice here. So yeah, I'll tuck it all in when I line it. On the instructions, it does make you just overlock this edge, and then you would have sewn the lining on already and then sewn it together, so this is still a raw edge, which I'd prefer not to have, so I'm going to do it a little bit differently. So now I'm going to go onto the back bodice piece. I have cut a strip that I'm going to sew together to make the loops. I probably will top stitch over it to reinforce it as well. So I'll sew the line, turn it right way, press it, top stitch over it just to give it a bit more strength and structure, and then cut it into the 10 loops that I need. And then I will pin those loops onto this back bodice piece. Okay, so I have done all of those bits. I've also top stitched where I have put the loops for the corset back channeling, and I'm now gonna sew the front bodice to the back bodice by one of the side seams, because the other side seam is going to have the zip in it, and I'll do the same with the lining, and then I will attach the lining to the bodice, putting the straps in as well at the same time, which I need to cut and make the straps, so I'll do that, and then the bodice should hopefully be done. What I'm going to do is, with this front lining piece, I'm going to do a basting stitch that is 1/2 inch, because the seam allowance on this is 1/2 inch. I might do it a little bit shorter so I've got a little bit of room to play with around there, and then press that over to the wrong side using that as a guideline to help me press the curves, so that when I attach it to the lining, that will all be folded over, and then from the right side of the garment I can top stitch all that in place so that everything is nicely encased inside that lining. Obviously I will sew the other aspects of the lining to the main first before I do that, but yeah, you'll see what I'm doing when I do that, and that's sort of the way that I think that everything will be neatest, also without me hand stitching, because I don't really like to hand stitch if I don't have to, and I want to do that. So that's what we're going to do next. So I am having some issues with my phone. I think it's not recording some of the stuff. I think it's the battery keeps going low, so it keeps shutting off. Anyway, so I'm going to show you what I have done so far, what I'm going to do next, but I won't film those bits for you. But yeah, let me just explain what I've done. So all of the bodice pieces are now sewn together. This is the right side of the back and the wrong side of the front. I also understitched the lining, so that's, oops, there's loads of stuff on this table. So that lining in the main has been stitched together, and that's been understitched. Where the straps are attached, it makes it a little bit awkward, but I sewed a label on the back there. I think this is a Cozy Club handmade label I got recently. And then what I've done now is I have used my like double-sided quilting tape to stick this lining to the front bodice. I'm going to hope it stays whilst I stitch from the right side, do just top stitching just under where the bust line is on the bodice, not on the bust pieces because they obviously gathered. There's going to be an issue there, so yeah, just a small top stitch on the front bodice pieces there. Fingers crossed it all stays in place and goes nice and neatly for me. I hope so. And then, so that'll be the bodice pretty much done. Then I will move on to the skirt. Okay, so where are we at now? The bodice is completely made. I'll show you that in a second. So now I'm going to move on to the skirt pieces. I've got about 3 hours or so today, and I want to get it done. So I need to sew the side seam, one side seam of the skirt pieces, and then run a basting stitch across them all and attach them to the bodice pieces. After I've attached the skirt, I will overlock the side seams, overlock all of the lining or edges. Then after all that, I will pop in the invisible zip. So let's get on with the skirt. Quickly show you the bodice. Which doesn't look too great on my mannequin right now. It's not doing it justice. See, everything is attached the way it should be. I did try it on roughly last night, and it does look like it could be a little bit big, but because of this corseting and the back, it should be fine. So I did the back corset tie strap as well, so that's all in there. And then obviously this is open for the invisible zip. is where we're at. The skirt is attached, gathered. I have overlocked all the raw edges now. The only raw edges we have which are inside of there, but they'll be concealed with the lining. I do need to pop the ends in. Next step is adding the invisible zipper. So I pressed the skirt seam upwards, and whilst I did that, I also pressed the invisible zipper teeth open. I'm not going to go through how to insert a visible zipper because there's many tutorials, but I will just film how I do it. It's not the most precise way to do it, but it normally works for me, so that's what I'm gonna do now. So the zip is in. As you saw in the video, it went in quite well. There's a tiny bit of like visibility on it where the waist seam is, but I don't really mind that so much because I'd rather it be a little bit loose than got caught, because I've had issues in the past with the zips getting caught. But as you can see, I think the strap length is perfect. I've got nice amount of coverage up top here, so I'm not going to worry about bending over and flashing everyone, which is the issue I had in the last one, especially when I like sat down at a table, things like that. I actually quite like the length like this short. It has turned out, I think, shorter this section than my last one, but I am still going to put the frill on the bottom. So this is it without the back. I've not tightened the back, so I'm going to tighten the back, see how that looks. It feels nice at the moment, not too tight, nice room to breathe. So I'll tighten the back. Actually, I won't tighten the back and show you. I'll show you that when it's all complete. But yeah, I just need to pop the peplum on the bottom, little frill there. So with that, I've cut 3 strips that equal double the amount of the hem of the skirt. So I'll gather that, put that on, and we're all done. So one thing I realised I need to do before the skirt is attached to the lining. As you can see, I managed to catch all of the bust lining, if that's what you want to call it, in. So, you know, it's not the neatest, but it's in and it's cool and there's no holes, which is good. So what I'm going to do is flip this, so it's right sides together. It's hard to show you with one hand. So this lining will pin down here, matching that seam there. And also on the other side, an invisible zip. So we'll do that both sides, flip it back out this way. So that'll be all tucked under nicely, and then I will do similar to what I did with the bust piece here, is I will stick this all down. I'll probably press it up a little bit, stick it all down with my tape, and then on the right side I will just do a top stitch along here. I could stitch in the ditch, but I think other bits of the dress have the top stitch on, so I think it will look absolutely fine for me to top stitch along there. I might just leave a bit of a gap by where the zip is, just so there's not too much going on for the zip to get caught in there. But yeah, that's the plan. And then bottom of the skirt and hem, and I'll be done. Some issues with my phone again, so didn't film the last bit of the process, but as I said, I just sewed the 3 strips here together. It was actually 1.5 times the bottom of the skirt, not 2. This is 2 gathering here, and that's 1.5 gathering there. Sewed that, gathered that, overlocked it, and then hemmed it. It took a lot longer than I expected. I think there's a lot more skirt than I thought there was in here. And I'm glad I didn't line it, because this fabric is more structured than the fabric I used last time. So it's already got a nice weight to it that it's not see-through or anything. And didn't need lining. I also sewed in the lining on the top here. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. I'm really impressed with how it turned out. I'll put some pictures in when I take them. The back I've tied up as well. That's corseted up. I think I could have, if I make it again, because I put the thrill on the top here, I feel like I could have just gone a little bit lower with this neckline. So I think it is slightly higher, but actually it just makes me feel nice and secure. So yeah, I could lower it if I wanted to, but I don't have to. But yeah, I'm hoping that I don't have the same issues with this one, with the fraying and things, and with the hooks coming out. I feel like this fabric is not going to do the same as that fabric. I feel like it was a bit to do with the weave of that one, and this is not going to do that as much. But yeah, I'll try and get some pictures of it, and I'll put them at the end of the video. The dress is completely finished. I'm really happy with it. I'm so glad how it turned out. It's exactly sort of how I envisioned it, with how my last one went and the House of CB dress that I saw that I wanted to replicate. So I'm super happy with that. Let me know in the comments if you'd like more of these types of videos. I feel like doing this and my last dress as well has really solidified within me that I actually just like to follow instructions, and I like the tried and tested patterns and the things that have already been made. Sometimes I do sew to just sort of relax and chill out, so it's nice to not have to think too much. This was a lot of thinking going on here. So I think the next couple of makes I'm going to do are just going to be using someone else's patterns. Please like and subscribe, tell your friends about me, and I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you.